Hello. Hi, good evening, one and all present here. Um, First of all, let me thank you for joining for this bootcamp session with me today. I'll introduce myself. My name is Netre Kulkarni. I'm located in Pune, currently working as a vice principal at City Pride School, Pune. I've been in the education industry for around 14 years now, performing different roles. But the last 2 years or 1.5 years that we have been in the pandemic and March 2020 onwards, the education, the system has completely transformed itself. And I was one of them, not knowing how to go about it. And and here we are today as education is completely transformed after this pandemic has hit us. In many ways, I would see pretty things which are in a positive light, that it has really brought us very close to the technology, and the young generation today is pretty much abreast with that. And why not us coming close to that? So that is the takeaway from this learning experience. I would also like to thank Mahattattva and Dipti ma'am and her team from by giving me this opportunity to share my learnings. It has been a journey from not knowing anything to coming to this platform and talking about some tools that I know, and of course using them. So coming from that authenticity. So I really, really want to thank Dipti ma'am and the Mahattattva team for giving me this opportunity. Here, I would say that we all educationists are into technology integration, and I'm really enthusiastic about it because it gives us a lot of tools to work on. So here today, I will just share my screen, and we will take on with this discussion further on. And I'm sure that this will give you enough tools so that you can incorporate that in your lesson plans and enhance your teaching learning process further on. And I think these tools are very versatile tools. So, of course, some of the things that I'll share, you can always modify and take it further. So, let me share my screen and we will take it forward from here. Well, this is a very familiar word, blended learning, the buzzword for today. Um, I have also come across this, in the recent times when we learned, when there's a lot of trainings that are going on around, so that we as teachers enhance ourselves and have a lot of tools in our hand to make the teaching learning interesting. Right, so everyone is in the virtual world and everyone knows what's blended learning. Just for one more retake on what exactly it is nothing but a hybrid model of teaching learning, and actually a combination of synchronous method of learning as well as asynchronous method of learning. A little bit of going into the details of synchronous method means where we are connected to the students as teachers live. Currently we can call it as a live classes, or the virtual classes or online classes that we use, that we are doing it as a school system has completely transformed itself into online teaching learning. And asynchronous method of teaching is basically when we are not directly in connect with the students, but however it is still an online teaching learning that's happening. So that's called an asynchronous method of teaching learning. Now, here I would like to give you a few scenarios over here, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. I being a teacher, are dealing with these scenarios. So, scenario one, I can say that you notice that a certain fifth graders are very chatty about what they read. Of course, as you know, primary students are very much active and want to talk a lot and want to interact a lot. And you as a teacher want see this as an opportunity for some meaningful dialogue. And then you think, how do I control this chaos, or maybe how do I manage this online dialogue that I want to have? which is much meaningful than just somebody saying something. So how do I do that? So that's one case, as a teacher, I may have to deal with. And you may be a teacher who's teaching secondary and senior secondary section or higher classes. Here you notice that I've put up a situation where the ninth graders are usually very quiet in class, and that's a very very personal experience, and I'm sure it may resonate with others as well. And but you have an assignment and you want meaningful participation from all. So what do you do? So these are two situations where one bunch of fifth graders are very jumpy and want to participate and want to interact, but how do I manage it and organize it? And another situation is completely contrast, where I want them to interact, I want them to participate, and I want their meaningful contribution. However, I do not know how to go about it. Okay, so these are the two scenarios. So I scream, or you scream for help. How do I do that? These are two completely contrast situations. And here I would say Jamboard comes to our rescue. So Jamboard is one of the tools, Google tools, that is completely, some completely in your hand to organize what is happening. So if it's so here basically I'm talking about Jamboard, which is nothing but whiteboard that we have. So many of the tools that you might be using may have the inbuilt whiteboard, and you might be completely using that to help conduct your online classes and be completely in sync with what the students have to say. Uh, However, I would like to also introduce that Jamboard is nothing but a tool where it is an interactive tool. So we will go about and learn about what is Jamboard and how do I use it. So basically, this would be the flow of my talk today. Here, I will be demonstrating a lot of things here. First, we will know if many of you might be familiar with Google tools and are very much familiar with what is Jamboard and how do you use it. But once again, it's a humble attempt from my end to just review and revise again. And for those who have not, come across this tool, it's for them to quickly understand it and use it very very efficiently in their own teaching learning processes. So here we are going to learn how do you open a new Jamboard. Then I would also share with you all the elements that are associated with Jamboard, so all the things that are available for you to use in Jamboard. Third would be what do you mean by frames and how do you add and delete them? How do you share the Jamboard that you've created? How do you save it as a PDF or a photograph? And I will have scores of examples that I have created where you can use it as templates, or you can just get an idea as to how it can be used efficiently in teaching learning. So that is the scope of my talk today, and I will quickly jump into how do we really begin, because it's a camp where we actually get uh, into it, understanding it completely. So, how do you really open a new Jamboard? So, there are three different ways of opening a Jamboard. First of all, the prerequisite for using any of the Google tools is that you have to have a Google Gmail account. Gmail account is a mandatory requirement. So, if you don't have a Gmail account, I think you should create one before you get into using the uh, any of the Google tools that you might want to use. But I'm sure everyone has a Gmail account. So the first way of getting into or opening a new Jamboard would be if I open a new window, it will be jamboard.google.com. So if I enter this and press enter, you will come across and it will load the Jamboard tool for you. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. The second way would be if you go to your inbox and you go to these nine dots, and here if you see a lot of Google tools are already there. If you go down, you will see a Jamboard symbol over here. You go over there And again, all the Jamboards that you might have created before, or if you have none, you will have a blank slate over here, and then you can start using a Jamboard. The third way of using a Jamboard would be you go to your drive. So if you go to your drive, um, then you come to this new button, new, click that button over here. Go down, you don't see anything over here which says Jamboard, so you go down to more. And then if you go down over here, you will come across a symbol again. It's an orange with a J, and it says Google Jamboard. And when you open it, since you've gone through as a new Jamboard, a new frame of Jamboard will come up on this screen. All right, so this is what a Jamboard looks like. So basically, if you look at this, it looks like a completely a white board over here, and some tools that you see on the left hand side. You see the title that you can give over here, and some of the options that you are also familiar if you're using a lot of Google tools that you've been using. So first of all, let's rename or maybe give it a name. Let's call it as a demo Jamboard. Okay, so if you say it as a demo Jamboard, here the name changes. Now I'll slowly and very meticulously, I will tell you what are the things that are there for you to use. Not many, but whatever they can be used efficiently in many different things. So first is, let's go to this what is known as setting a background. Now this right now, if you look at this, it's a white background because that's a default setting that a Jamboard is there. But you can change it to dots. Now this could be very, very useful to a mathematics teacher where she wants to use these dots to draw a geometrical figure or something like that. It can also be used for creating locations. Like in I being a math teacher, I would really I always look at it from a mathematics point of view. So it could be you can look at it as a points that you can use to create certain things. Then we go to this. These are simple lines. So here I would say an English teacher would utilize this for younger classes where he or she is trying to, create a sense of, oh, if this is a notebook, how do we write on it? So it gives a sense of writing on a notebook. So that is something that can be used. Here, these are check boxes. So it gives you a feeling of a notebook for mathematics, mathematics checkbox notebooks that generally younger kids have. So that's the background that can be created. Or it can also, give you a feeling of using it as a graph paper. Then we have check boxes which are also a little darker shade in color. So that is also available for us. Then we have plain simple blue color where you can use it as like it's a like a blackboard or a green board we usually call it, but now it's a blue color. So it just gives you a nice feeling of having a solid color at the background. Second thing that you see over here is an image icon. Now this is for setting a background as an image. So if you want your background to be a certain kind of an image, which you would want to use it further, so that is where you can use this icon here, and I'll come to that after I explain a few other things that are over here. And then we call it, then there is one more icon which is called a clear frame. So right now, even if I do that, nothing will happen because I've not written anything on this board, this Jamboard yet. But then you see on the left hand side, definitely Jamboard is nothing but we have to write on it. So we want to use some tools that we can use to write on it, right? So here you have a pen and you have different colors which you can use for pen. So if you use a blue color, obviously since it's a blue background, I think it is showing up. So if I want to draw something with that blue color, I can do that. I can change my color and it becomes the color that you wish. So that is how you're using a pen. Second option that you have here is a marker. So again, a marker. If you look at this, it's nothing but it's a little bit thicker than I don't see much difference in a pen and a marker here, but yes, you have that option of doing it, using it. Third option over here is known as highlighter. If you look at this highlighter and if I write something on it, so if you see, it's something different, right? So uh, a little bit thicker than the pen and the marker, and this is what you can use to write. Of course you can change it, so whatever is best that you want to use. I think highlighter is mostly preferred because it's a little thicker and it is very um, visible to the students whatever you're writing and or whatever they want to write. And the fourth option here is a uh, what is known as a brush. Okay, so if you look at this brush and I've taken orange as a color, it looks like as if I'm doing it's a watercolor. So these are certain options that are available for us to use as a tool to write on the screen. And if I do a clear screen now, everything goes away. So it's basically clear screen will erase everything that you have written. Whereas, if I take this as black and I use it as a marker, here I would be writing something. Let's say it's demo, and I want to erase. So I'll go to erase, and it becomes a simple eraser. So I think these are simple tools which are very self-understanding. The third tool that we have is select. So I'll come to that later. So let me clear screen over here. Now this is in the other kind of whiteboards that you use if you're using Teams or Zoom or something like that. Uh, the options that I just now showed are already there. But what is new in this Jamboard is a sticky note. So if I click on the sticky note, here a sticky note appears where I can write anything. Okay, so I'm writing something. Purpose of this boot camp is to learn Jamboard. Okay, so if I've written something like this, so when I click save, what do you see over here? You see that a sticky note has come on the screen. And then if I come to closer to it and if I hover my mouse on it, you see that it is expandable. It is expandable. Of course, I see that I have made a mistake over here in terms of the spelling. So I go to these three dots and I edit. So when I edit, I can come back to my location over here and I'll correct my spelling and I'll save again and it comes back here. So it's a very versatile or it's a very dynamic tool, and it's very interesting for the students to use. And for us also to put whatever we want. Here there's also a swivel option, so you can always have that kind of designing that you want to do, and you want to put a lot of messages for your students or things that you want them to listen to, or you want to show it to them. So this is a very very interesting tool here. Now I can also change color. So if I go from yellow to green and I save it, it comes into a green color. So the background just changes. You come back over here, you see another option which is called duplicate. So suppose you have written something and you want to duplicate it. So when I duplicate it, another sticky note of the exact same sticky note will appear on the screen. All right. Now, so these are very self-explanatory. I can delete it. Suppose I don't want this, I can delete it. The third, now if you see earlier, you saw that the order option was on, and now the order option is faded, like it's not allowing me to use that option. The reason for it is suppose because there is that what do you call it? That operation I cannot do it because there is only one element on the screen or on the Jamboard. So I'll come to that later on when we do a lot of when I add a lot of other things that on this particular Jamboard, and then I can use that particular option and show you what it means. So very very interesting element over here. So this is your sticky note. Okay, so it's basically you type in the things that you want to, your instructions, your things that you want the children to read, and then do something. So all those things. Then when you come over here, you will see add image. This is a very interesting tool over here, adding image. Uh, so here you can select a file which you can upload from your machine if you have anything by using an URL. So if you have already selected images and you have the URL, you can put it over here. Camera will allow you to click the picture now, there and then. So that is one more option that you can use, and you can click a picture and put it over there. Of course, this is the option which we generally would be using, where we are using images from the net. So and that's an option over here. You can pick up images from your drive. If you have already saved images in your drive, you can pick it up from there. And Google Photos. So if you have your phone linked to it, and you might have different photographs that you would want to pick it from here. So that's the option that's available. So let me go and show one. So let's say, let me pick a flower images. And suppose I am interested in picking this one. So when I click on the image that I want to be inserted in the Jamboard, a blue strip just comes over here, and you see the word, you see an icon over here. It says insert. So when I click on this insert, that image is going to be um, is appearing over here. So then you can resize your image, you can duplicate it again, duplicate it, and you have the same image appearing another time over here. Then you have delete. If you want, you can resize it. Now if you see, come back over here, you will see that that order is now on. So what can we do? If I take this image and if I superimpose on this particular sticky note, you see that this is on the sticky note. So the sticky note has gone behind. Now if I do this and order, and I can send it back. Okay, so now if you see, the image has gone behind and the sticky note is superimposed on it. So these are a few features which will appear, or we can use it in very interesting ways. So this order is an interesting option for you to use in the Jamboard slate that you have. All right, so this is where you can take a lot of images from the net and you can create a collage. You can create things around it. The lessons you can create around the images that you bring in. So that's another very interesting tool that we have, and we can add it. Now here, if you see over here, we also have an option of including a lot of geometrical shapes, though there are only limited shapes. So if you see, there are only 8 shapes. So I can use a circle, and if I bring it over here, it comes out as a circle, right? So this can be duplicated, again deleted, and order again, the same thing that we talked about. Then you have a square. All right. Now, if you look at this, it's just a square. And when I select this particular square or a rectangle over here, the shape over here, the icons that are available for me is that I can fill it up with some color. So I have some color that I can fill it up with. So if I click that, the rectangle gets filled up with that particular color. And second thing is, I can also change the border. Right now it's a default black. So if I want a green border, and if you see, it's green in color. Now if I want to change and see what is there, with the blue background, it's becoming very difficult. So I'll change it to white background. So now it is very, very clear that you can change the border of the shape that you have brought in on this Jamboard, and you can fill it up. Now one might say, how do I write on it? Right? So if I want to write something in this particular square, or in this particular rectangle, so unfortunately here, if I see, it's not getting clicked, so I cannot type anything. I cannot type anything over here. So then that's where the text box option comes into picture. So if I click on text box and I bring it over here, now I have a text box that's available and it's ready to take my inputs. So I want to color I'm just writing it, the background. Okay, so this is what I want to write. I want to color the background, and I want everything to fit inside this particular. All right, so this is something which is where we are using two tools. So I want a text in a box, in a rectangular box, which is colored. So I use two tools and I superimpose them on each other. I can also move. So if I don't want that, I can always move this out, because this in itself is a different element. And also if I go back over here, I can also move the rectangle itself. So that is something I am free to do. And the last thing that is over here is nothing but a laser, you can say. So when suppose you've written something and you want, or if there is a figure or a diagram that's there on the whiteboard, and you want to show, or you can want to highlight. So this is something that it's kind of a highlighter, like you show it and then it disappears. So this is something which is used, which can be used by the teacher for highlighting. All right, so this is something, these are the tools which are there for you to use. Unfortunately, there is no such tool where you can impose or import a video. So basically, all the tools that you have are would be something which is very visual uh, and static, I would say. Okay, so these are the tools, and this is how you use those tools. So when I clear the frame, it all will disappear. Now, before I do that, I want to show you, if you look at this, it's called expand the frame bar. So each Jamboard has a frame. So this what whiteboard that you're looking at is nothing but a frame. So we have a Jamboard allows you to have many frames, and the maximum number of frames that you can have will be 20. So 20 frames you can have, and you can create a Jamboard based on that. So this is our first frame, right? So this was our first frame. So I've just opened, so it's showing for 1 out of 7. So now if I look at this and I expand, I see all my frames are blank, right? But this is my first frame which I worked upon, right? Now if I look at this, I can duplicate the whole frame. So suppose I have designed my page according to the needs of my teaching learning process, and I have designed one and I want to duplicate it. So if I do a duplication, I see exact same frame, which becomes my frame 2. Okay, so if I don't want it and I want to delete it, it goes back. Second thing, if you see, this is a plus option, and if you click on it, it just adds a frame. So suppose you have created your lesson and has 7 frames, but you want to add some, title before the next frame. So you can just pop and add here, go to that frame and add your title, and that's how you add or delete. And this is also a good way of looking at how your frames look like. So this is just a very blank and a demo frame, so I will share with you a lot of other things that you can do with Jamboard. The next option that you see over here is, once you've created your material for sharing it with the students, look, as I said, it is a tool which can be used for synchronous as well as asynchronous teaching learning. Now, when I'm talking about synchronous teaching learning, I mean that on this Jamboard, my students are able to do something. I can give the access of my Jamboard to my students, and they will also work on it. So that is called as a collaborative, or that is called as a synchronous way of having the students on board, and they are also working on the frames as per my instructions. So that is called as synchronous learning, teaching learning. Asynchronous means you have the still students have access to what you have created for them or what you want them to do, but they are not doing live in class with you. But however, they are doing it as a home assignment, or they are doing it as a project which is due after a week or so. So still, both the options are available when we use a Jamboard. So here, if you go down over here, on clicking on these 3 dots, you have created your product, you can rename it. So if I rename it, I can change my name of the Jamboard. I can download it as a PDF. So after the whole work is done, when the collaboration with the children is done, and you have all the material that has come back to you from the kids, and your complete project is over using this Jamboard, then you want to archive it or you want to save it for evidences or for things that you want to refer to later on, and it just becomes an archive. So you can download it as a PDF. So if you download it as a PDF, then it becomes a document for you for future reference. Then you can also save a frame as an image. So if I save a frame as an image, means if I save this as a frame, so whatever frame is there on the screen, it will save it as an image. And then you can crop it or you can send it, or some comments collectively you want to share it uh, with the parents, that this is student work and you want to share it as an image. That is also wonderfully, can be used over here. Remove means you can just delete the whole thing. Make a copy of this. Making a copy of this particular Jamboard means you are duplicating the whole Jamboard. So if I am saying make a copy, I will get a demo Jamboard, one more. So that is what it means. And of course, you can also, now latest version is, you can see a version history. Version history means you can see that what was it like when it was 640 when I started with this, and now how does it look. So that is how the version history looks like. So I started with it and it was blank, so it will be like this. And then when I come back over here, I've added a lot of things, so that becomes your uh, version history. Okay, so this is how you, so these are just simple tools that I thought you should know. And uh, the most crucial thing is, after creating a Jamboard, it is of no use if you don't share it with the students, because that is the whole purpose of Jamboard, where everyone can work on the same frame, or maybe on the same Jamboard. So here you would use the share button over here. Then you would come to this, or you can, of course, you can also add the email IDs of the students if you want to share it with them. Or here, if you go here, change, and you can get the link and you can share the link. So sharing this link, so anyone with the link can view. So currently I have kept it as a viewer, but if you want the students to work on it, then you have to create it as you have to change the option to editor. And if I do that, and if I share it, copy this particular link and share it in your Google Classroom, or you can, if you are working on Teams, it can be shared it as a link can be shared, and the students will have access to your Jamboard. All right, so this is how you share it, because ultimate aim is that I want a synchronous class where my students are involved in my work. And second thing is, I can also give it as an asynchronous way of doing it. Now I'm going to share with you. So if you look at this, I did not talk about undo. So again, undo will give you previous versions of. So it's something which is very understandable. One option that I wanted to show you was, and it will be useful when you are actually using Jamboard in your class, would be the zoom option. Okay, so sometimes, so if you look at this, the zoom option will zoom your Jamboard to a 100% level, or you can take it to 200% level, and you can do it over here. So I will tell you what is the exact use of the zoom option when I show you the different versions of Jamboard that I have created for you. Okay, so zooming in will be helpful when the students are working on a same Jamboard. So right now, currently, so this is one of the elements that is also present over here. Now let me take you to some of the ways in which you can use a Jamboard. Okay, so because using a tool is one thing, uh, um, like knowing how to use a tool is one thing, and then using it effectively in your teaching learning is another thing. All right, so I have created a few Jamboards, and that I'll share it with you. So the first use of a Jamboard that many educators and teachers, or even in workshops, they use it, It is used as a feedback tool. Now, feedback tool is nothing but where you are asking the students, or maybe after your class is done, or after your complete concept delivery is done, and you're asking your children to, share their thoughts whether they have understood the concept or not. So here, what I've done is, like, since I teach class the higher classes, and I was taking a uh, topic of triangles. So after the whole topic was done, I used this particular Jamboard to ask whether they want to, how are they feeling about this particular concept, whether, so I just used two emojis over here, whether they are good with this particular concept, or um, they need help or support, or they want to give some feedback to me, whether I should continue a few more things or things like that. So here I've used that use green color. So what they will do is, the child will, so when I share this link, so this Jamboard is accessible to them, and each one will have access to all the tools that you see over here. So since I have made them as an editor, and what will happen is that they can then go to the sticky note over here, and if they're doing if they're giving that I'm all good, so they will write this as all good, or we can go ahead, or something like that. Then save it, and it appears over here. So they have it, they can then just put it over here on the left hand side, where they are okay with this particular concept. If a child thinks that he or she wants to give me a feedback, where they want me to continue with a few more questions, or a particular concept is still to be explained to them, or re-explained, or a reteaching has to happen, then the child has the freedom. So here, they can be anonymous in their feedback, because here when I write all good, and or many other children would have written. So I'll show you the second frame where they had given me the feedback. Yeah. So this was the feedback that I got from my students, where somebody said, whatever they felt about this particular concept. And I also had certain students who said that they want to practice more of these questions. And so it is an anonymous feedback tool, because I don't know who has posted this. Because unless and until they write their name on this particular um, a sticky note. So if they write their name, then I would know. But I'm not interested as a teacher to know who has written. Even if two or three children want this to happen again, then somebody has written need revision. So this becomes a very very versatile tool for anonymous feedback. So I use it more for a feedback after concept is done. So this is one way of using this particular this thing. There could be, you can always also give an option whether you want to write something about it. You want to write whether uh, if they want to give a feedback in a written format, or they want to don't, or anything they would want to do. But most probably, I would say that children do participate, and they give their complete honest feedback here, because it's anonymous, and I would not know who has uh, logged in, and who has posted this particular uh, sticky note. So this is one of the ways you can use Jamboard in your classroom. Okay, so pretty simple. Let me go to the second way you can use a Jamboard. Now, second way of using a Jamboard would be as a teaching learning tool. So here I will show you a few frames which I have created, where you can use it for teaching learning. I have tried my best to include a few subjects which are beyond mathematics, and I'm sure you can always enhance and put in your thoughts when you come across and when you want to use this particular tool. All right, so let me go over here. So suppose uh, I have used this particular frame in which I have given a question about, I've taken a particular shape, rectangular shape, and I have written ABCD to show the vertices. And this, if you look at this, it's a graph paper, but it's a little it was a little misaligned. So I also created the x-axis and the y-axis, and I then you can write this as an origin over here. And I have taken this triangle, and this is a this is a particular, classroom synchronous work that I want them to do. So what I would do is that this is a particular frame in which the question is posed, and then you can of course share the link of this particular Jamboard, and ask maybe, to name a student that that person should answer this question, and then they have an access. So I think here a little bit of what I can say is, what I have found is that since Jamboard, if you put a link which is accessible to all, sometimes even if you have asked one particular child to answer this particular question, there could be other students who would play mischief and they would also enter the space, unless and until you have just specified it to one particular child. So when you share it, you have an option of loading an email ID. But here, so then only that person has an access. But if you're using the link option, then you are actually giving that access to all. So here I would say that as a teacher, you would also take this as a teaching opportunity to teach what is known as a digital citizenship. What do you mean by digital citizenship? Means when it's a common space that is to be used, then how do you judiciously, have certain restraints, and that you're not messing up with other person's work. So here, I think digital etiquettes and those kind of rules or expectations can be mentioned. So here, the child will have access to this particular question, and the child comes in and uses a sticky note and writes an answer that point A is like, it's a 3 comma 5. Basically, what it means is that this is just a random example I'm saying, and then the child has written this, and then when you correct them that whether that's right or wrong. So this is a way where you are using it as a teaching learning tool. Here you are using a synchronous feedback in the sense, not feedback but participation in a lesson over here. All right, so this I have this is good for mathematics. This is one way of using it for mathematics. Here, if you look at this, I have put it as a frame in which uh, as if it was a notebook, and I have written a question over here. If 4 pens cost A and 3 pencils cost B, create an expression. So this question or this frame would be made accessible to another child. So you can say maybe, Rohan, you have a question on frame number 3. Go to frame number 3 and answer the question. So the child would have access to this, and they can choose any color pen they want, and they would write. It's nothing but 4A plus 3B. So a child is writing, and there and then it's as if like the child is writing in front of me, and I am there and then. So even if we are in virtual mode, I can still have a complete understanding of the child. The child can ask if there's any mistake. We can always correct them. So this is the way you can use different frames for different children. Okay, so you can see the Anita can go to frame number 3. Then, of course, this is another way of putting it, whether uh, you want to express yourself, you want to write something, you want to give a feedback. This is a writing pad. The child can write anything, and I can hear it. Or uh, the expression that I have asked that child to write over here, maybe 2 or 3 more students can write their answers over here. So synchronously, they are typing their own answers. So I can see if there is a discrepancy and the child has written something else. Means I go back to that question and explain what I'm trying to ask, and then correct them. So this is very, very helpful, very much helpful for me in terms of understanding in depth whether there is clarity in what the child is doing. Now, so that was like mathematics, and of course, there are numerous ways of using what questions you can put anything. I will show you a lot of other ways. And now we have a learning tool as a science tool. Here, I have put a few objects over here, and I will ask the children to name the objects. So if they want, they can zoom in and see what the object looks like, and then they can tell me what exactly it is. So this is nothing but where you are showing the objects and asking. Also, this can also take you to the discussion of classification of the objects. So if you look at this, this is an iron gate, this is gold, this is pencil. As science teachers, you can always ask whether this is graphite, then this is nails, so again iron, this is sulfur, these are again coins, oxygen over here. So here I am as a science teacher trying to ask them the objects, but naming the objects is not the objective, but also classification of it. So it could be like, take the discussion to how do I classify these objects, and later on in the next frame, you can say what is the question, that means what how do you classify them, and they will come up with that this is a classification of metals and non-metals. So when you're teaching at this time, they are in the view mode, they are just watching it in the class. And later on when you say that now tell me what are the features of metals and non-metals, and then you can start sharing this particular. So on frame number 8 they would put their thoughts about what are the properties that they know about, that if a particular element is a metal, what are the properties. So they will put that over here, what are the properties if they want to. So you can pick up another sticky note over here and they'll say it's no luster for non-metals, right? So somebody will put bad conductor. So these are different things that a child will think on the spot and try to put that property under non-metal. So this is a very good tool where there and then they are answering your questions and they're writing, so you're not calling their names and asking them. Then I have taken it as a geography lesson. So if you're a geography teacher, you can utilize this. So here I will tell you that here I have used the map of India. It's a political map, and this has been taken from of course, the internet. And here you have proposed a question: name the states which are in orange color. So here the child has to look at the state, and then you give access to or ask 1 to 5 roll numbers or 6 roll numbers. Can you put the name? And then they start jotting down the name. So, and you've already provided the blocks over here, name the island. So 4 to 5 children can work on this particular frame. Then the next frame would be name the states which are colored in purple. So another set of 3 or 4 students can work on this particular frame. And of course, when you're sharing the link, it is accessible to them. But then you have to direct them that 1 to 5 roll numbers are working on frame number 1 and the other. So they are not messing each other's work. So this is another way of using Jamboard as a tool for teaching learning. All right, so then we go to the third way of using it as Jamboard as a differential learning tool. And I call it as four corners. Differential learning tool means you are giving different questions to different children as per the need of the particular class. So here, if I see, I have made a frame in which I have created, or I have put images of 4 questions. And so these are 4 different types of questions. One is a game, one is another concept, then this is a graphical interpretation, and this is again, reading of bar graphs. So these are 4 different questions. And then you have created a frame number 3, which says roll number 1 to 5 will work on question number 1. And so these 5 children are working on this particular question where they are solving this game for them. So they are actually concentrating on this. Now here, when the child gets access to this particular Jamboard, they would then go, because they are not interested right now to look into the second, third and fourth question, but they have access to it. But they want to see, or if somebody wants to read the graph, so they would go back and now zoom it 100%, and then they can actually concentrate on their particular question. They can read the figures, they can go and interpret this particular graph, and then they go back to their frame and then they answer the question. So you've actually organized the work for them. Question like roll number 6 to 10 will work on question number 2, which is an algebra question, and then they're answering their questions on with the yellow color sticky note. So it's very clear for you. Then the third question is on the bar graph interpretation. Some 3 facts they have to find out So the child would go back to that question and look into the graph, read the graph properly, maybe 200% if you want, then they can really interpret the graph. Let me go to 100%. And then, they can say that this graph is about, or in 1970. So it's about a gender, men and women, how many dentists, men dentists and women dentists existed. So this is a graph about uh, the profession by gender, and then they can write three facts that they observe from here. So this is a kind of a differentiation you can do through Jamboard. So that is my tool over here for Jamboard, which is another way of doing it. The fourth way you can use Jamboard is a collaborative tool for discussion. Okay, so here is a Jamboard that I have created where you are using it for getting thoughts from your students, or getting information from your students, impact of COVID-19. So that's the major topic. But two children, roll number 2 and roll number 10, are going to use this frame where they are going to write about their thoughts about retail business, how it has affected retail business. So these two children would be working on these frames. So they will take a sticky note and then they will write about what they have understood, that what's the impact on retail business. The next frame could be roll number 1 and roll number 5 are working on what is the impact of COVID-19 on unorganized sector. So unorganized sector would be, the telas and the kind of, shops that are there, street vendors. So these are all our unorganized sector. The maids that we had, and those are the sectors that they're looking into, and they're writing their thoughts on it. Then what is the impact on medical field? So this is so you are actually giving them, what do you call it, a thought line for them to only work on that part of the impact. And similarly, and also you are involving all of them, because you have enough frames for them to work on. So likewise you can engage, so food industry, then what is the impact on travel, then IT industry, so on and so forth, the migrant workers, and so on and so forth. So it's endless how many frames you can. So you can create 20 frames, and if two people are working on one frame, you can engage 40 students at one go. So it's a beautiful way of engaging the students here, and that's a collaborative tool for discussion, Jamboard. Then I go to Jamboard as a project tool. Now here, I have taken history as a background, and if I look at this, I have created a project for them so that they will be working on, finding the most influential figure according to them, who has influenced them. Could be a global figure, could be and you've written a few things that you want them to write about. So you should have an image. That image of that person is essential, the timeline that you give, and what are the 2 points that you want them to write about that particular influential figure that they would want. So here, so this is an example that I've given. So I will put my name here. Then I've put the figure that has influenced me. So I've taken a picture so that the child has an access to getting an image of that particular person. What are the 2 points that has impacted or influenced about that person, and what's the name of that particular. So each child is then working. You could also design a frame for them, which is a blank template, that this is where the picture should come, and then around here you can write about the other things that you're expected to write, or what the teacher has asked you them to write. So here I've just used it as a template, by copying the frame but changing the color, fill color. So this is how you can create, where the child is working on one frame as an individual project, and the whole Jamboard becomes your project file for the whole class. So that's another way of using Jamboard, where it is independent work, asynchronous work. So this could be given as a work to be done at home, and not necessarily right there in the class. So it's an asynchronous way of working. Number 6, which I have thought could be used, Jamboard could be used for English lesson, which is called a sort wall. Um, so I'll just quickly run you through it. So here I have posted a lot of words on the sticky note, and here you can ask the students, give access of this Jamboard to your students, and they can classify them. So if you see run, sad, listen, feed, walk, play, cook, so these are the words, and then they have to identify what these words look like. Maybe are they verbs, they are nouns, are they proper nouns, are they common nouns, things like that. So as an English teacher, you would be, you know, picking up the discussion on what do you understand by reading these words, and then they can simply move them, and you can give it that frame one. Classification will be done by maybe 5 students, so only 5 students are then working on it, and then they are moving it, but it happens synchronously, so they are actually, all of them are working on this. So this is one way of using it, and then use it as a classification, like apple, then make a print, then driver, wire, dive will come here, reindeer will come here, duster, Rajdeep, feather, push, phone. So you can quickly move the things which are, and then it becomes a classification of the words that we have. So it becomes like verbs and nouns you're classifying. So book here, then button, a body, and this is a calculator. So this you have just classified. So a child, feels very important when they are given the work to do and they are participating in it. Second way could be a second frame for the next 5 students, that they can write down what are the adjectives and some examples of adverbs. So you've created a wall for them, and they are writing the examples which come under adjective and adverbs. And then we are here. They can rate the activity, and they can. One important thing is that it can be used to unscramble. So here you have given them some alphabets, and then creating a word, they can make a word. So a lot of things, like if I want, I can make a word here, S M. So a child feels very involved. These are for little kids, the little ones, and that's how you can engage them. So that's another way of doing it. Then I will show one more. It can be used as an exit slip. Exit slip is nothing but when you're asking them that I'm done with my lesson today. Then write your thought, 3 things that you've learned today. So they can write sticky notes and give the feedback. So it's basically a feedback tool. And 2 things that you like the most, and that one question you still have in mind. So that can be, or any other thing that you want to say. So it can be used as an exit slip. Quickly, I'll go through the another one here. The science teachers can use it for brainstorming on the apparatus, what exactly, what is each element called. So it's like getting acquainted with the apparatus of the science lab. They can put one figure over here and ask about what does this experiment look like, or what is identify the experiment. And on the next page, they can write the name of the experiment, the process, and the conclusion. So this can be framed, different experiments given to different children. So identify the experiment and write about it. So this can be used in a synchronous or asynchronous way of doing it. Then the last but not the least, you can use it as fun games. So let's have some fun. Here, this can be used for by art teacher, since you can always put an image and use only primary colors to color the picture. And I have duplicated the flame, so you can give it to different students to color this particular uh, house. So they can use uh, kind of a highlighter, the color, and then they can start painting. So it's fun. It's fun to paint a picture and things like that. So it can be used as an art activity. The next would be a memory game. I've created a memory game over here. So here you might have, so you have a provision of, show it to them. So first you have to go to select tool. So if I see behind one is some picture, behind two is another picture. Of course, show give them some time. Then this is another board game over here. This is chess over here. This is a smiley face. So you first show them all the pictures and then ask them which pairs are. So 1 and 6 match, 5 and 4 match. Then I think 3 and 9 match. So it's a fun game for them. So likewise, you can create such games. So and then they can write the pairs over here. Guess who again could be a game that can be created. Something which is giving them the the cues over here, and then later on asking them what exactly. So I'll say it's pink in color, it's seasonal, it's small in size, it's a fruit, and it's grown in cool climate. Guess what? It's a strawberry. So likewise, you can. It's the imagination or the things are endless, and you can go about it and do a lot many things. So I think it's time now. Time is up now, so I will stop sharing and come back to. So I've tried my best to try to show you how a Jamboard can be used, and that's how that's a wonderful tool. So here I see, ma'am, I see a question over here. um, Ma'am, please guide how to make wall frame of two colored. If I'm getting the question right, I'm thinking that you want to understand how you can create a frame in two different colors. If that's the question, then you have to basically change the background, and from of frame one you can, the Jamboard gives very limited backgrounds. So if you see, it's white and a blue, but when you go into background as an image, so that is where you can actually type in and see some solid colors that can come in, and you can use two different colors for different frames. There is no other way of having two colors of of the frames having different color, but just creating it as a background image. So I hope that answers your question, if I have understood, if that was the question that you had. So I'm sure it has helped you in understanding the tool, and the tool is very, very simple, but the ways you can use it is endless. I've just tried a few elements to use so that all the teachers of different subjects, subjects is where you are stuck. Suppose if I give example of only one particular subject, then I thought it would be a good idea also to take it to a range that it can be used for primary and younger kids in terms of games and making English, interesting, creating words. At the same time, you can take it to higher levels where you are showing pictures and getting them to write character sketches. You can pose a picture over there, and and so there are different ways of using Jamboard. The only thing is that you need to be very, very careful would be when everyone works on the same Jamboard, it can become chaotic and people can start deleting each other. So sometimes it just goes out of hand. So that is where the skills are required as a teacher to control that. At the same time, I would also suggest you can make a copy of the Jamboard that you've created. So even if something messes up, you still have the master copy with you to redistribute or restrict your distribution. Yeah. So any more queries or questions you might have? So I think digital citizenship is what will help you utilize this tool in the best and efficient way. And also sometimes when you are not ready for the synchronous mode, sometimes you have to give an access to exclusively those people if you think that the whole class is messing up. So those are certain things that you can take a call. But I think if your instructions are clear, I think the children, because everyone has access to it and they have their own frame to work on, I think it goes pretty smooth. So that in my experience, that has gone pretty smooth in most of my cases. All right, so that's it from my end. Jamboard is a very, very simple and interesting tool to use to involve students. So even if they don't talk, I think they can share their thoughts very openly with us. So there are many, many Google tools that you have, and this is one of the tools that I think teachers are using extensively, and you can find a lot of resource based on how you can use it. So this is my small attempt of sharing my learnings with you. So if there are no more questions, I think we can close.